Do I recommend counting macros? I don't. I don't recommend it unless you are higher level. First question for today is dun 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 dun. Actually, we can get that scrolling text going. All right, Papa Swolio, do you recommend counting macros? Ooh, do I recommend counting macros? Now, before you get your nips all twisted up. I mean, you got some really long, straggling nips if you get them twisted up. But do I recommend counting macros? Now, when it comes to counting any kind of caloric intake, it depends on what your goals are, depends on what your experience is, depends on what you really need to, triple down on. If that's like the last piece of your puzzle, you can really get analytical with it. What I recommend for people that don't really know anything, and it's the majority. Most people don't know the first thing about what foods do to their body. I answered a question today on Instagram stories. I did a couple responses. If you don't follow me on Instagram at Swolenormous, make sure you do so. I answered some of those questions in stories like live. I just answered them recorded. And people are like, oh my God, can skin conditions and can things really come from food and diet? Yes. Yes. Most people don't realize that I would say the vast majority of all problems are coming from lifestyle habits, whether it's the type of food, whether the quality, number one, the quantity, of course, but other habits like poor sleep, poor other types of time management, no exercise, no meditation, poor mental health. It really comes from what you're fueling your body. Your cells are made up of what you're consuming. And if you're consuming dog shit, you're building on a shitty foundation. You wouldn't build a skyscraper on soft soil. You need a strong foundation. Most people don't even have a foundation. They don't even have a foundation. They're building this building that's floating above the ground, like altered carbon or some shit. So, do I recommend counting macros? I don't. I don't recommend it unless you are higher level. And when I say higher level, it doesn't mean that you're an expert. You've been training for 30 years, only then do you count macros. But I think people get way too deep into the addition and subtraction bullshit rather than going to the fundamental. Okay, what foods are you putting in your body? Are you actually eating proper foods? Not everything should be going in your mouth. And if you just go right to counting macros, you're going to start nitpicking and weighing and measuring shitty foods. And that's, again, you're starting at the second or third floor. You're not even starting at the foundation. So most people that go right to the macros, they're missing something foundationally that will affect them long term for their overall wellness and their overall results. So you can drop in the comments below. It's a tool. It's a tool in your toolbox. It's just like when you go to the gym, you're not going to use every piece of equipment. I don't use every single kettlebell that I have. I don't do every single exercise possible for chest or for back every time I do chest or back or legs. I don't do every single exercise humanly possible because not everything applies to what I'm doing or what I want to accomplish, and not everything has to be done at one time. So counting macros, it's good to weigh and to count and to get an idea of how many calories are in different foods. But if you're not fundamentally approaching your nutrition from a quality standpoint, primarily, number one, the best quality foods that you can get, doing an elimination diet, figuring out what foods, what fuel works best for your body, then you can start playing around with how much you're consuming and the ratios. Don't just people jump right to keto, for example, and they're doing a lot of fat, low moderate protein, low net carbs, and they're eating shitty keto. They're doing tons of cheese, they're doing tons of vegetable oil and grease. They're not actually doing it properly. So I just think this is a fundamental starting point. People are starting from the wrong direction. And here's the thing. Here's a good concept. So let's say you go back a few hundred years, maybe 500 years or 1,000 years, and you're on a ship, okay? If you're at port and you're thinking, okay, I want to go towards this point. If you're off 1 degree from the start, it might not make it. If you're off 1 degree, and you're going in a straight line, you're going to be hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of miles off course by the time you get to your destination. So where you're starting from is so important. And most people aren't starting with proper aim. They're just, oh, I'm going this direction. Okay, but down the line, a couple years or a couple months, you're still going to be, well, I still have this little extra belly fat here. I still can't get rid of this. I'm feeling this. I still have cravings because you didn't actually figure out what works best for your body. You weren't lined up from the start. And you all have an opportunity to line up from the start. Most people just want that quick fix. Hey, what's the answer? And there isn't an answer. There's a direction. You just have to put in the work and put in the effort to do an elimination. Yeah, you're going to be undoing a lot of these addictions, a lot of these terrible habits. And that's not easy. That's the hardest part for people, which is why the Swole fam crushes, which is why we support one another. And of course, if something's hard, it's generally much more worth having than something that's easy. If you could just take a pill and have the body you want, everyone acts like they want that. I know I'm going a little bit off the topic, but everyone acts like they want a magic pill. They want a quick solution. You don't, because then everyone's going to have amazing results. It's just not going to be, it's going to level the playing field. It's going to level the playing field. People are not going to revere it. It's not going to be something that people want to achieve. You want to do better. You want to do better for yourself. It just has to do with a lot more than just nutrition. It's the mindset of how you approach it. And most people don't want to unlearn the bad habits. They just want to jump to the end. They want to do that little warp in a video game. They want to skip to the end. They want the cheat code. Doesn't exist. All right, so what are your thoughts here? Let's get some feedback here. Supergen, counting calories or macros is just a tool. I'm actually back to counting now and dropping weight. Good. I detest counting. I don't like that at all. Let's see. Moderate Carb Maven, I saw old video of yours that you ate Sour Patch Kids. Is this the case? Not for like 3 or 4 years since you saw those old videos. I've talked about that so much. I leave them up there because it's a good example of how when you have your last little bits of addiction, your last foot in the circle of addiction, of the shit pool, even if you're eating completely healthy. And I was doing everything else. I was crushing everything else, but I was still eating Sour Patch Kids, getting my carb pump before I went to the gym. It's an excuse. Once I stopped eating them completely and started really going heavier on the fats and going a lot more deeper into organ meats and things like that, I just haven't had any craving. So it's easy to have those addictions. Most people do. They just don't look at them as addictions. Han Kim, count macros if you're doing a bodybuilding show. Yeah, that's really who it's for. That's really who it's for. If you're really I'm trying to get down to 13% body fat from 14. Boring to me. That's boring shit to me. But some people that's like their thing. That means a lot to them. It's all right. Let's see. Connie Garcia, would it be a good idea to join a food co-op? Maybe. If that works for you financially, if you're getting foods that you enjoy, sure. You know, a lot of food co-ops, as I'm aware, it's a lot of vegetables and stuff like that. I mean, the things that I don't normally eat, but it can be beneficial to you, sure. Those types of things are going in on, let's say you're going to a butcher, getting grass-fed beef or something like that in large quantity. You're buying half a cow or 3/4 or whatever it is. You can go in with other people and get discounts on shipping, get a ton of it, and then split it up between you and someone else. So if you have issues, sometimes when you order grass-fed beef or you find some of these companies, there's a certain requirement or a minimum. And if that's too much, just split it with a neighbor, split it with a friend. Let's see. Any other feedback? How many of you are counting? I just don't. The human body it does it itself. You don't have to micromanage your food. And that's the thing. If you're looking for general health, if you're looking to manage your weight, if you're looking to change your life, it's really a crutch, counting. It's really a crutch. And it's not something that you should be spending brain power on. It's so much easier to cut out all this junk, and you're not going to have to count. You're going to lose a lot of weight. Most people want to lose extra body fat. If you're trying to bulk, you need to eat more than you're utilizing. You need to eat more, but still you need to eat the right foods. You want to get as much nutrients as possible. What a lot of people are doing is they're doing caloric deficits with nutrient deficient foods. And then they're just like doubling and tripling their deficiencies because now they're eating less of shit foods. Oh, I can eat fast food. Yeah, you're getting no nutrients, and then you're eating less of it. Oh, because I'm in a caloric deficit. And your body is just going to be functioning on empty. Empty. Let's see here. Amano, I only count once in a while. I focus more on the quality of food and what works best for me. Good shit. If you count macros, aren't you counting calories by default? Sure. I mean, if you're eating 200 grams of carbs, multiply by 4, that's 800 calories and so forth. It's the same concept. Do you count macros? Are you counting calories? It's all the same. It depends on just how you extrapolate it.